Hello, it's Renee. I'm shooting this today on a quick vacation that I've taken to the beach. So I'm going to keep up my schedule with weekly blogs and vlogs. So here we go. This week is the second chapter of my book entitled, If You've Met One Person with Alzheimer's, You've Met One Person with Alzheimer's. So I've already discussed this principle in a blog dated March 23rd, 2020, and I'll provide a link so you can read that again. In the chapter, this is the chapter where I discuss all the events that led up to my knowing that there was something wrong with Harvey's cognition. And you can read that, not that chapter, but you can read an essay I wrote for JAMA Neurology on my website. But basically what happened, we were on a family vacation to Costa Rica, and in that week time, Harvey exhibited several signs that made me worry and wonder that something was wrong. So what I'm going to do today for this week's post is talk about what those signs were and mention some other very, very early warning signs that might present themselves. So the most common first symptom of Alzheimer's disease is decreased short-term memory. And indeed, that was one of the main things I noticed in Harvey on this trip was he could not keep up with what the guide was telling us to do, what time we needed to be ready, what we needed to wear, things like that. And he would just ask me throughout the day. Another one is behavior changes. So very early in Alzheimer's disease, a patient might become more withdrawn, might exhibit more anxiety, even agitation, depression. Now, this is not something I noticed, but on the trip, Harvey himself told me that he had noticed himself becoming more withdrawn. He saw that as a problem and thought he needed to work at getting himself more out there. Another one is visual spatial problems. And this usually manifests itself with difficulty with depth perception, knowing how far away something is. One of the activities we did on our vacation was zip lining, and Harvey had some difficulty landing on the platform, and he just seemed uncomfortable with this activity, which was unusual for an athlete of his caliber. Misplacing objects. Now, it's very common and very normal for all of us to misplace our keys occasionally. We can retrace our steps and find them, but it's just more of that. And on this trip, Harvey was constantly rummaging through his suitcase, trying to find sunglasses, sunscreen, keys, always rummaging through. The ability to do mental math might be impaired. Now, this is not to say that if you can't do mental math, you have Alzheimer's disease. What I mean is if someone who previously was very good at being able to do that, all of a sudden can't, that might be a sign of a problem. And this showed up on our Costa Rica trip when I asked Harvey to calculate the birth years of our daughters, and he just couldn't do it. That was unusual. Time issues might be a first symptom, and by that I mean losing track of the time of day, day of the week, even the time of year. This showed itself in Costa Rica as well, in that Harvey had a hard time keeping track of really what day of the week it was because of the activities that we were doing. We were so scheduled, but he had a hard time, what day is it today? That type of thing. Navigation can be an issue. So studies have shown that even very early, very, very early in Alzheimer's disease, those patients, if you put them in a new location, they can't navigate as well as a normal person could. And that showed up as well. Harvey got lost on one of the resorts that we were in and had to be brought back to our cabin. So there are some other symptoms as well that Harvey did not exhibit early on, like in this vacation trip, but word finding, more than just the word on the tip of your tongue. It starts with the letter be, and then it eventually comes. More than that, it's a lot of word finding issues and making up new words, stopping in the middle of a sentence because they've lost a train of thought. So those are early symptoms as well. An inability to complete normal everyday tasks, say a recipe that would normally be done from memory. All of a sudden, she can't do that. Money issues. This would be an inability to balance a checkbook or keep to a budget. And then sometimes judgment can be one of the very first symptoms, and that's usually around money issues too, being not making good, sound decisions regarding money. So as you can see, that's a whole long list of things. I think it's about 10 things, but and Harvey exhibited 7 of them on this one trip, and that's what gave me the recognition that something was really wrong. And I think it really came to a fore on that trip because he was out of his comfort zone. He was out of his routine, thrown into a whole new way of being, and all those things showed up. So I hope that this was helpful. I look forward to seeing you next week. So thank you, and be well and keep your balance.